Look at any major news outlet right now, and you will see a world on fire. Sirens in Israel, airstrikes in Iran. The headlines suggest a region spiraling into uncontrollable, permanent chaos. The concentration of diplomatic and economic leverage held by global leaders is so absolute that a coordinated effort could, in theory, freeze these front lines in a single day. Yet the stalemate continues, suggesting that the persistence of the war is a calculated choice. Public discourse centers on religious and territorial borders, while the flow of weapons and crude oil reveals a battlefield operating as a corporate enterprise. While bombs fall overseas, the economic shocks reach your bank account. Disrupted supply chains and manufacturing delays cause everyday prices to spike. You pay more to live, while a select group of elites amasses historic wealth. To understand why this war is happening, we have to look past the soldiers on the ground and follow the money flowing out of the desert and into the capitals of the world's superpowers. At ground zero, the Israeli military is currently engaged on multiple fronts, neutralizing heavily armed forces directly on its borders. Geographically, the objective is to dismantle hostile networks in neighboring Lebanon, Syria, and Jordan to secure a permanent defensive perimeter. These maneuvers are driven by the concept of Greater Israel, a political vision of absorbing surrounding territories to create a massive, unified buffer state. While these regional goals are localized, they intersect with a global proxy board, where the stakes extend far beyond the Middle East. In the West, the United States operates a system where political power is deeply intertwined with private energy and defense sectors. The U.S. has spent years securing its own energy safety net, most notably through its control over oil reserves in Venezuela. These reserves account for approximately 18% of the global supply, enough to fuel a nation for over 160 years. This buffer is critical because Iran has the capability to block the Strait of Hormuz, a narrow waterway handling 20% of global oil. When shipping routes are threatened, global prices skyrocket, making the Venezuelan reserves held by American private companies exponentially more valuable. Instability also drives an insatiable demand for military hardware. Private defense contractors like Lockheed Martin and Boeing manufacture the majority of the world's equipment. And as the conflict spreads, nations across Europe and the Middle East rush to sign multi-billion-dollar contracts for U.S.-made jets and missiles. These private profits move directly into the political sphere. Figures like Donald Trump, who maintain ties with energy and defense executives, see their political leverage and campaign funding grow as these industries thrive on foreign instability. To maintain these conflicts without the political cost of military deaths, the U.S. utilizes private military companies, or PMCs. PMCs are corporate entities that provide specialized combat and security services traditionally handled by state militaries. By using contractors like Academy, the government can fight wars without reporting official casualties to the public. This loophole allows the private defense and energy sectors to remain profitable indefinitely, avoiding the domestic anti-war protests that usually accompany state-led military campaigns. To the east, Russia and China have their own strategic reasons for ensuring the Middle Eastern war continues. For Russia, the conflict is a massive resource drain on its enemies. Every dollar and missile the U.S. sends to Israel is a resource diverted away from the European theater. As the West focuses its financial and military attention on the Middle East, Russia gains a free hand to advance its own campaign in Ukraine, capitalizing on the distracted state of NATO forces. China's strategy is based on exhaustion. By quietly supporting regional actors, Beijing lets the United States drain itself economically and militarily in the desert, while China's own military infrastructure remains untouched and expanding. A weakened U.S. infrastructure softens American support for allies in the Pacific, potentially allowing China to achieve its goals regarding Taiwan without direct confrontation. This erosion of Western global hegemony, the dominant influence of one nation over others, is achieved through a war China isn't even fighting. For the Eastern superpowers, the Middle East is the ideal mechanism to quietly dismantle Western influence from a distance. The regional tragedies reported daily are the operational fuel for a global business model. When supply chains fracture and global manufacturing slows down, the price of everything from basic grain to advanced electronics begins to climb. This chart illustrates the direct transfer of wealth. As the savings of ordinary citizens are eroded by inflation, the profits of defense and energy corporations spike. Your loss at the gas pump is a direct gain for the geopolitical elite. From Washington to Moscow to Beijing, every major player involved has a strategic or financial incentive to keep this machine running indefinitely. The underlying patterns of the conflict suggest that the most accurate metric of global news is not moral alignment, but the distribution of profit.